Now, we'll try to understand this question in the context of sources, right? This particular question deal with the list of authors and the works that are associated with it, right? So a lot of, if you, again, as I'm saying, if you know one or two of these questions, you will be able to give answers of everything, right? By making the connection between the other options, right? You need to know certain things about major text, right? किसी भी पीरियड के कौन कौन से मेजर टेक्स्ट होंगे, कौन कौन से मेजर ऑथर्स हैं, क्या उनका टाइम पीरियड है, विच बुक हैज दे रिटर्न, इट इज वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट फॉर यू टू पास दिस एग्जाम. तो कोई भी आप जब प्रिपरेशन शुरू करें, फर्स्ट थिंग फर्स्ट, राइट डाउन ऑल द सोर्सेज, बिकॉज सोर्सेज आर अल्टीमेट इन दिस एग्जाम, राइट? So we will be dealing with this particular aspect. So this is the list of authors and this is the list of the books. ठीक है, बाणभट्ट, संध्याकारा, बिल्हन, कल्हन, right? These are the scholars that we find in this context, right? Now, who is Banabhatta? Banabhatta was a major poet in the court of King Harshvardhan, right? And he wrote one of the major literature that deals with a biography, right? Sanskrit prose, which deals with the political biography of King Harshvardhan. So what that literature was called the Charit literature. Charit literature was a kind of literature which deals with the life and personality of a particular ruler, right? So Banabhatta was writing this text in the 7th century, which is called the Charit of Harsh, or what we know as Harshacharita. Now, Harshacharita is a very significant work to understand the political history of the Vardhan dynasty and how it was formed, right? Banabhatta also uses 2 chapters of this book to describe his own dynasty, own lineage, which is a lot mythical in nature. But when he's talking about Harshacharita, even though there are a lot of exaggeration in the book, and even though it is claimed that the book was not complete, it's incomplete book, even then it is very significant in terms of political history of this period, right? So Banabhatta is related to Harshcharit, right? That's a major thing that we find in this context. Now, the second thing is Sandhyakara, right? So Sandhyakara is a writer who is associated with a major author, right? Vikramankadevacharita. Now, Bilhan is associated with Ramacharita and Kalhana is associated with Ramacharita. Kalhana is associated with Rajatarangini. Now, the other option that is very significant for us is Rajatarangini, right? A 12th century text that deals with the history of Kashmir. Now, when we are dealing with the history of Kashmir, right, it is considered to be one of the earliest works of history. It is considered to be one of the earliest works of historical work in India, because not because there was no sense of history in India, but because in India generally we don't consider historical works as chronological. We don't write works in chronological manner. Most of the ancient Indian texts are not dealing with chronology. They don't give us a linear chronology as is expected in the Persian tradition or is expected in the European tradition. इसलिए जब आप हिस्टोरिकल राइटिंग की बात करते हैं, इवन दो दे मे कंटेन मटेरियल व्हिच इज हिस्टोरिकल इन नेचर, even then we don't find that these works were really historical, right? तो क्या होता है कि they had elements of legends and folklore and myths and all these kind of elements. Kalhan was using sources like coinages, buildings, to create a sense of history, even though it does also have mythical element. It does deal with the period of Mahabharata. It does deal with certain period which cannot be historically located. But he was providing a chronological chart as to the rulers of Kashmir of this period, right? So that was a very significant change in this context. Now, the other two options, Sandhyakara was writing the Ramacharita. Now, Ramacharita is significant because of its double entity, which means that it was dealing with the history of the life of Ram, but also with the life of the King Ram, right? So it's a double-ended is okay, Shlesh कहते हैं because the use of Shlesh is very significant in this context. And Bilhan was writing Vikram Devacharita, which again is a political biography, which is a charit literature that about the ruler Vikram, right? Vikram Dev, right? Charit literature was very significant in the history of late the end of ancient period and the early medieval centuries to create political biographies. अब ये कहा जाता है कि political biographies were significant because क्योंकि इस पीरियड में क्या हो रहा है कि there is a dismantling of the larger empires and many regional rulers are emerging. So ये regional rulers were trying to create a hagiography for themselves. They were creating exaggerated biographies for themselves to claim legitimacy, claim political legitimacy. उस context में आप लोगों को ये regime prominently देखने को मिलती है. So हमारा जो option है वो basically है A, बाणभट्ट का हर्षचरित, B, संध्याकारा का रामचरित, C, बिल्हन का विक्रम देवचरित, and कलहन का राजतरंगिणी, right? So basically our option 4 is the right answer.